Consider this question. What do you think matters more in disc golf? Form or strength? Follow-up question, if you consider only those two things, what is the ratio between form and strength in terms of how much it matters? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? Is it 80-20, right? If you think form is king, is it 80% of the game and only 20% is strength? Or is it a little closer, 55-45? You know, this is a topic I see talked about occasionally, but I really don't feel like it's talked about enough, for one. Two, I think most people are wrong when it comes to this. I think most people overvalue form. When you listen to some of the top pros like Simon Lizotte, he thinks good form is overrated, perfect form is overrated. And number three, I don't think this is settled at all. I think this is something we need to talk about more, because to me it's kind of like everyone's just like, yeah, form's the best, you know, strength's whatever, but like form matters the most. But I don't see people talking about it that much. And I really think that we're like not very close to being at the correct answer for this. A big example is how many pros get injured every year for things that seem like they should be avoidable, right? Like disc golf isn't the most strenuous activity, yet we see probably more injuries per capita than like other sports like football or hockey. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I feel like we see a lot of injuries on the same level as other contact sports. I don't think that should be the case. That was nice. That was really nice. Love some muddy disc golf. It's been a while since I played muddy disc golf. The more I play this hole really well, the scarier this upshot starts to feel. I just get so nervous screwing it up just because it's easy, you know? It's these easy shots that are sometimes the hardest in a weird way. Oh, it meant to go in front of the tree, but that works. This is better than I expected. I haven't thrown that zone in probably a year and a half. Just put it back in the bag. Now, obviously, when people are talking about the form versus strength debate, they're usually talking about what's more important for distance. And we'll get to that, but I want to kind of touch on the point that I just made, which is, if we're not talking about distance, just ignoring that altogether, strength and conditioning is really important for player longevity, injury prevention, and another third thing that I think is never talked about, which is like endurance on the course. Disc golf maybe isn't the most strenuous sport, but like, how many times have you played a 5-hour round and you had to go up and down a bunch of hills and you're just absolutely dead afterwards? How much better would you have played if you were in way better shape? How much of an advantage do you think someone has playing who's in better shape? I think we kind of get so caught up in throwing far and our form that we kind of forget that we are playing a sport, and the professional athletes playing this sport should train that way. I don't know how many people on tour really train that way, but the more I think about playing big events and trying to do well, I'm really considering how much is my physical fitness affecting my performance. And I think that number is like significantly higher than most people are talking about. I think being in good shape, being able to withstand an entire tournament without having many effects, right? If you look at golf, like golfers practice endurance. If the hardest thing you do when training is playing golf, playing disc golf, you're probably doing something wrong. You have to train your body to be able to withstand a long tournament. And so you got to push yourself a little bit so that it's a lot easier for you. And at the end, you're not tired at all. And if you're not tired throughout the whole thing, the whole event, then that's a factor you don't have to think about. I can't tell you how many times I think me being too tired or out of shape has screwed up my ability to play a tournament well. This tee pad feels slippery. I felt like it went a little early, I don't really know. Just came in a little bit early, it seems. Nice stick in my way. I'm not gonna get on my knee, I don't wanna get my pants all muddy. I just don't feel like it. I don't think I'm making this putt. I'll give it a try. This is like a putting league putt with that branch just hanging over like a third of the basket. Oh yeah. Go to your local putting leagues and make more of those. So just ignoring strength in relation to form and just talking about that, I think we could say most people would probably agree with me that just based on that, strength is underrated. Players are getting injured too much. It's not talked about. Like, disc golfers typically aren't really working with conditioning coaches, with strength coaches, and I think that's something we're gonna see change in the future. Or at least I don't really hear much about it. Brody Smith talks a bit about it, but like I think even during the season, what pros are talking about doing conditioning, taking a day per week to work on their endurance, to make sure that they're keeping up with these rounds. How much is it actually affecting them? If some top pros were to do this, would they see a lot of success? You know, I think that's gonna be a pretty key factor. If a lot of people start doing this, are we gonna see a lot of people start to see success with it? But ignoring all that, I think we should get to what we really want to talk about is, does strength affect form, and how much does it? Before we get to that though, we're gonna play this hole right here. I'm gonna throw a pure. I think it's a little colder, a little wetter of a tee pad, so I'm thinking a little flippier of a putter would be nice here. Oh, even then I could have thrown it on less hyzer. Okay, I'm putting the camera like this. You have to guess that the putt goes in based on my reaction. I'm gonna try to I'm not gonna react. I'll cut the audio out so you can't hear the chains if it goes in. What do you think? I missed. Strength and throwing far. One example I've seen a lot of times people point to for why strength doesn't matter is they say, look at Paige Pierce. She throws way further than me and she's tiny. First of all, most of the people saying that can't throw very far. So that's like the first thing. So that doesn't really make any sense. Second of all, she throws far for her size. If she were 6'2" and an MPO player and she threw the same distance, she would probably be one of the weaker MPO players on tour in terms of distance. It's because she's small that people are like, oh, she throws really far for her size, but she's not like bombing them out there with AB. Of course not. It's just obviously, right? And I think we can kind of see that. We can say, of course, there's a difference between those two. And height has an advantage as well. It might not just be pure strength, but I think even like Evelina or Ella throw further than her, right? So in there, I think it's obvious to me, maybe I'm wrong, it's obvious to me they're a little stronger than her, I think. And so that's kind of like, right away, I think that example kind of falls apart. The example I tend to use is why I think strength is important, is do like a little thought experiment for yourself. Imagine you have two identical people. Both of them have the exact same form, but one of them is stronger. Do you think, how much further do you think they'll throw? Like, they're gonna throw further, right? The person who's stronger is gonna throw further. If you keep your form exactly the same and you put on 10 pounds of muscle, you're gonna throw further. The question is just, how much further do you throw? And I think you can't really figure that out because I think for most disc golfers, in the time you're gonna put on muscle, you're probably also gonna get better at throwing. So it's like, was it the form, was it the strength? You know, I've gotten stronger, I've put on weight since I started playing disc golf, but I've also gotten way better with my form. So like, which one was it? I think strength plays a bit more of a role in throwing far than people like to admit, especially at the higher level, right? When most people talk about throwing far, they're like, well, anyone can throw 350. And it's like, yeah, but you probably need to be stronger, or at least and I'm not saying Gannon Bird's like this big hulking guy who can, or AB is like this big guy, but if you look, I mean, they develop the muscles, the fast twitch muscle fibers in their body that are associated with throwing are way stronger than probably other people's. They're not like built to just be like an overall strong person, but if you combine practicing throwing far with strength training, I think you can, especially like explosive strength training, like plyometric stuff, I think you can develop a lot further throws while also combining that with form work. I think just looking at form alone, I hate to use him as an example, but someone who's been doing form work forever is Robbie C. And I think he'll admittedly say he doesn't throw that far. And I think his form has gotten to be pretty decent, but I just think he's just not like the most explosive, strongest person. I think if he was like in the gym and became like super strong and explosive, he'd probably would see some gains. I think there's a lot of people like that who have like, I've seen people with really good form posting their form videos online and like, I can only throw 350. I'm like, dude, our form looks the same. Like, why can you only throw 350? Sometimes it literally is just, you need to get stronger. That's like a big part of it. And especially punching up past 450, 500. Like, that's the one thing I'm thinking of the most. I'm working on my form, but I want to get stronger. I want to be more explosive. Your form can only take you so far. I don't know, maybe people disagree with me, but I think that's true. Oh my goodness. Jesus, my foot slid so far when I planted it at the end. Wow. You know, I have such a love-hate relationship with playing in this kind of weather. I associate it most with like March, April time of year. And that's when I'm like most excited to play disc golf again because I haven't been able to play in a while. But then again, it's like muddy and cold and wet. And usually the air is really dry, my hands get really dry and muddy. And like conditions wise, it's really unenjoyable. But it has such a like warm place in my heart that I can't help but just love it. Like it brings me back to just loving disc golf and not really thinking about it competitively. Oh, that's so bad. You're so weak. Now, I tried finding some examples online of like other sports that have carryover in the same kind of way, where you can compare technique to strength. I even tried looking up studies on technique versus strength, like training your technique versus training just for strength, and like how much they affect your sports performance. Because I'm sure it's a really interesting thing. And like, I think when you look at a lot of sports, they both go hand in hand. And it's not really clear like which one is more important, or like if there's an importance to it. And I think with most sports, you kind of just understand that they're both very important and you do both of them as much as you can for whatever works for you. I just think in disc golf, we like kind of ignore the strength part entirely, and we just say like form is so important. Like fuck strength, who cares? You can be weak and throw far. And I just don't think that's true at all. I couldn't really find anything in terms of other sports or any studies or anything like that, but I did kind of find some discussion about strength versus technique in like wrestling or any sort of grappling martial arts, so like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And that's something that they talk about a lot, where it's like, yes, technique matters a lot. And I think from the layman's point of view, you're probably thinking strength is like so important, right? Like if you're just stronger than the other guy, you can beat him. But if someone is like same weight class as you and is stronger than you, if they have terrible technique, you can probably beat them. In the same way that if someone is the same size as you, but has terrible form, you can throw further than them. But if you have two equally matched individuals in terms of strength, a person with a really good technique is going to beat the one with bad technique, because technique is very important. And I think it kind of goes the other way around. If you have two evenly matched players in terms of like size, and they both have approximately the same level of technique, the stronger guy is going to win because they're going to overpower them, which is that little bit of extra edge that they have. So they kind of both play into each other, and I think they're both really important. And you kind of see the same thing in disc golf. Someone's going to throw further if you both have really similar form and are similar size, but one person is stronger. I don't know. I really don't understand how like concrete tee pads can feel so slick. I guess because there's mud on them and stuff, but like, kind of crazy. Don't hit the hill. You can't even see it. Don't hit the hill. I think that's a putt. Let's go. Oh, the wire's hanging out. Now, another problem I think we run into when it comes to this debate, we'll say, is a lot of people look to pros for advice on this. And you have some conflicting opinions. I've heard, maybe I'm making this up or misremembering, but I'm pretty sure I heard Gannon say like, oh yeah, I spent some time in the gym and I can throw further now because I got stronger and put on some weight. And I think I've heard that from some other pros before as well. And I think Albert Tam, however you pronounce it, he did a little video on how to throw far, I think with Latitude 64. One of the things he talked about was going in the gym, doing compound lifts. So like there are clearly pros that are on the side of strength is something and it plays a role and I train it as part of my training as a professional athlete. But then I think you have other people, someone like Ezra Aderhold, who is really strong. And he I've heard him say many times, oh, strength doesn't really matter, like it's all about technique. And maybe I'm mincing his words, maybe he didn't really say that, but I think I've heard him say something along the lines of that. But just like as an example, let's say for the sake of argument that he does say that, you know, how could he possibly know that that's the case? It seemed to me like he got into disc golf while he was already strong. It's not like he got good at disc golf while like, I guess, weak, got really good form, threw really far, and then added on muscle, and his distance didn't really change from that. Like he doesn't really know if his strength plays a role. And I think he's saying like, oh, well, you know, some people might say, well, I was really strong and I threw terribly and then my technique got better and then I could throw further. And I'm not saying that you can throw far with strength, ignoring technique, but I'm saying in conjunction with them, it plays a bigger role than you would think. And like maybe he was able to throw really far, really quickly, because once he developed good technique, he had really strong muscles to go along with it already. Is this outside the circle? No, I'm just inside, I think. I see like, oh, it looks like a lawnmower went over the whiskers, so I literally can't even tell. I think I'm outside, but I'll just stand still. Oh, my hands are just dry. And like no scientists have really done studies on this. No one really fully understands it. No one's like tested it out themselves. I don't really think anyone really knows. I'm kind of just basing this off of like my own understanding. But to me, intuitively, like strength has to play a decent role. And I just think that people undervalue it way too much. And it's something that I'm starting to bring into my training, if not for form, or if not for distance gains, just to be in better shape so I don't get injured throughout the season. All right, let's try to park this one so I don't have to make a putt. I have not been putting particularly well with my dry hands. Don't hit the tree. Now go down. Okay, I think that's good. I can't possibly be the only person that's gets affected by dry hands as much this time of year. Like I seriously feel like with the base plastic putters, like I can throw fine, but it's the base plastic in my dry hands. I feel like I get no grip and I have no confidence in my putt. And I've tried different plastics. I can't putt with premium plastic. It just feels awful. And even softer plastic. Like this is Flex 2, I've tried Flex 3, I've tried the eraser stuff, I hate it. I just cannot get a good release. That was good though. I had to talk myself up. So am I saying that if I throw 350 and I want to throw 400, I should just not worry about form, go to the gym, maybe worry about my form a little bit, but shift gears and really start going to the gym? No. I think for most amateurs, the idea of making form your main concern is definitely the case. Like you should really just worry about making your form better. The most people that I've coached, most of the people that I've seen at an amateur level, even some pros, they can gain a lot from just getting better form. I'm more talking about people that already have really good form or are close to it and are looking to get more out of it. But also, I'm not saying you shouldn't do conditioning and strength training and flexibility training when you are that 350, 300 throwing person. If not just for form, it's good for you. It's good to be flexible. It's good for mindfulness. It helps your brain. It might make you a more calm and less reactive, less angry and frustrated disc golfer. It might help your mental state. It will definitely help you with disc golf in a lot of aspects other than just form. It'll help your life in a lot of ways. And so like conditioning, strength training, yoga, all this stuff is just good for you overall. So you should just do it, not just for disc golf, but just for everything. And it will help you with disc golf. It'll help you a little bit. And there have been people that I've coached where their physical fitness for sure played a role in their inability to throw further. I've coached people where I was able to help them quite a bit, but I you can't help but think, but it was obvious to me that their physical fitness was going to have them at a lower ceiling than most people. And in order to break through that ceiling, they had to get in better shape. And I honestly feel like I see that with myself. I'm not as in good shape as I was when I was in college. I'm maybe stronger, but like my conditioning can certainly get better. Not a terrible throw, just like way off target, right into the hill. Oh, this slid into the hill. It would actually probably have gotten to like a circle 2 putt if I left it a little more left. I can like give it a Anheuser putt maybe. Oh, that was close. So the point of all of that basically is just to say, like every off season, this one in particular, I'm putting a lot of thought into my strength training. I'm worrying a little bit less about disc golf. I'm not trying to play rounds every day in the snow. Right now it's wet, it's muddy, it's dry, I'm cold, I'm a little bit bundled up, and for sure gonna be way more bundled up in the future. And that by no means means I'm not gonna be making YouTube videos, but in terms of just getting out all the time, I'm not so focused on it. I'm really focused on getting a bit more flexible, getting stronger, picking up my conditioning a little bit, just trying to get in better shape so that when the season starts, I'm at top form. And then I could just take that with me going forward. Another thing is just don't let it fall off during the season. A big thing, I think the off season is kind of the best time to focus on these things because most people are naturally going to be playing less disc golf. If you're a tournament player, you can kind of take your foot off the gas a little bit and focus on some other things. You'll be able to play when you get back, and you don't have to worry about having like DOMS or CNS fatigue for tournaments coming up after you train. Just a big thing I would mention is if you are going to pick up a training regimen, make sure you're not overdoing it. You can make yourself too tired if you're lifting too much. During the season, especially if you're playing like every weekend or every other weekend, you should lower your lifting regimen, lower your conditioning regimen a little bit, just so that you can keep up with playing tournaments. Otherwise, you're just going to burn yourself out. I'm hoping we start to see a shift with pros worrying more about conditioning and strength training. I think we've seen it a little bit. We'll start to see it more. I mean, look back, I don't know how far back you have to go when literally nobody had a forehand and now everyone's got a forehand. And then when we talk about like, I feel like even we're gonna see even more powerful forehands on tour. Look at someone like Ryan Sheldon, man. That dude's a beast. He doesn't throw far forehands just because of form. Like, he was a pitcher. I don't know what level he played, but he played at a fairly high level. He could throw hard, and a lot of it is because of his strength. A lot of it is also technique, obviously. And so we might see people, you know, why can't pro disc golfers get a little bit stronger and have a further forehand? That's like a really good tool, you know, and how much training does that really take in the off season? It's certainly something to think about. Enough yapping, let's go. Felt pretty good. I feel, it's short. In the bush. Like 5 feet short of where I want to be. I genuinely have no idea what I'm gonna do here. This is so bad. Now, something I just thought of as I'm walking through that puddle back there. If it weren't for my shoes, like, these tee pads are slick. If it weren't for these shoes, I'd be slipping all over the place and having a terrible time. Just pick these up, Vessies. I have an affiliate link in the description if you want to try them out. They're pretty sick. They've got good traction, and they're the reason I'm able to come out and play right now with these slick tee pads in muddy conditions. I don't even know. You know what? I'm taking a video. There's no rules. I'll just jam a forehand up there with a Firebird from right here. We'll pretend I threw it a little better. Probably a little short. Yeah. Look at these fellas. Oh, bye-bye. No look scuba up shot. Ready? Second try. I can make that. Step out. I'm not even like under it. See, the no-look scuba is tournament ready. This is very uncomfortable. Oh! But yeah, that's my take on all that. I'm gonna work on some strength. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. I think my form is like, I mean, obviously my form is the best it's ever been. And I think I'm hitting a point where I can only get so much better. There's only like small changes to be made. And I know what I gotta work on too. So it's not like I'm totally oblivious. So I think strength, especially in the off season, will help me a lot. Last off season, I spent the whole time worried about getting my backhand form better, getting my putting form better. I feel really good about both of those right now. So getting stronger, getting more flexible, getting in better shape so I'm not panning like I am right now during videos is gonna be a main priority. So best of luck that it all works. Feeling good though. Was I right? Was I wrong? Do you agree with me, disagree? Am I an idiot? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you next time. Peace.